1.
Spags, the double header here on Splash Play Tuesdays rolls on. We just drafted my 81st Best Ball Mania 4 draft, and now we're going to compete for $3 million in my 82nd stream draft.
Yep. We are already in the waiting room here in a Best Ball Mania 4 draft. $3 million of first place. Pete and I drafted some unique teams on Pete's stream. So if you missed that one, go check it out on Pete's channel. Of course, leave a comment on that video. But Pete, honestly, I'm ready to redeem myself. I feel like that team wasn't bad per se, but it definitely wasn't like one of the teams that I would normally try to go to. So maybe this is a draft to get some AR, maybe a draft to do some cliche things. I don't know.
Look at this. Look at this room. Influencer 101 for Spags, 110 for Pete.
Am I the bad luck for you? Is that where we're going to land with this?
I don't know. Maybe I need to check in with Underdog. Maybe I'm just not on good standing with them. The RNG has just not been kind to me. How many CD Lamb, Devontae Adams teams? How many Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson teams? Maybe I just take Nick Chubb just to feel alive for once here, Spags.
I mean, look, we talked about the virtues of Nick Chubb. We're getting ready to get in there now. And I think Pete's going to be a tough decision for me. Do I take Justin Jefferson? Do I take Jamar Chase? So much optionality at the one spot.
Yeah, it's, it must be tough. Do you have an overweight position on either Jefferson or Chase just based on your random draft slots?
I am at 9.9% Jefferson overall and 9% Chase. So I have a little bit of extra on both.
That's not bad.
Oh, I'll take it. All right.
I will say this, look at Christopher Davis just spamming 20s.
The Spags Relief Fund. We're panhandling out in the streets like Salvation Army now with how things have been going.
What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say this is definitely, even though I don't see as many badges, this is definitely a friends and family room, stepfathers, Furby, Sam Duel, who's been in a ton of drafts. So I think this one might be a little more pissy than the last one.
The Burke here taking Travis Kelce at the 3 spot. So we are getting different right away. And you might even get a value coming back to you.
I love value, Spags. It's my number one joy in life, just getting value.
Christian McCaffrey. Okay, so interesting room so far. I think this bodes well for you at the 10 spot, though. Again, you could still reach for Nick Chubb if it's in your heart.
One thing I've been doing is getting a little bit more Austin Eckler in drafts, so I'm happy to take him at 110 if he falls. Also, don't mind getting some Bijan. Maybe I'll do some kind of running back wide receiver combo here, depending on how stuff goes.
So I know I have to keep you in the loop on DraftKings stuff, which was a weird one. So yesterday I was in a draft. Bijan went 25, which I did not understand.
On DraftKings?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I am on the clock. Let's do Bijan.
Okay. Yeah. No issue with Bijan. I think he's live to be the running back one, like as live as anybody in this round.
I just don't have how we have like individual player concerns or even like the macro team environment or whatever. Like obviously you could say, hey, structurally you get buried by an avalanche, better running back values later, yada, yada. But I just don't have any concerns about Bijan. I feel like barring injury, I know what we're going to get. And the fact too, that he's going to an offense that just ran the ball so fucking well. We tilted our minds last year at Arthur Smith, but the dude called a really good running game. I just do not have much concern there. Let's see. Let's do Nick Chubb does go. I mentioned on the previous stream, do I want to do Bijan and Adams? I think we'll do Bijan and Adams. Yeah. I am higher. I have more exposure on Adams over Waddle, but I think that should be the case, considering their prices. I do have Adams slightly a tier ahead. And I do wonder, do you think Adams could be a little bit, how like there was uncertainty with Eckler with his contract, and not saying there's anything with Adams, but how like people were just a little nervous and then Eckler shot right back up out of the second round to the first round. Do you think that could happen with Adams if we get like really good news? Like, hey, Jimmy G's good to go. Jimmy G and Devontae Adams have this great connection. Do you think Devontae Adams kind of locks back into like the 10, 11 ADP spot? Or do you think drafters are going to continue to prioritize Garrett Wilson and Lamb and Amon-Ra over him?
I think so. I agree that he came down because of the Jimmy G foot stuff, because that's when that started to really kind of take a foothold of him, no pun intended, falling into that second round more consistently. I honestly still like him more than CD Lamb. Like, I don't think, that might be a little bit of a hot take. So I would be comfortable with him going back to the first round. The issue, though, is that then if you're taking him back in the first round, like, he's now been steadily in the second round for what, about a good month. So
Yeah.
I would worry about that, but I agree. Like, he should come back up.
Because like if we're thinking truly about talent profiles, historical production, Devontae Adams should be going after Cooper Kupp, ahead of AJ Brown, ahead of Diggs, ahead of Garrett Wilson, Lamb, Amon-Ra. Like, that is the caliber of player he is. And so you are getting a situation uncertainty discount on him relative to his talent. And I do think that's a really interesting dynamic. And I've mentioned a lot that game he had with Jarrett Stidham too, where Adams can crush in a ton of environments. I'm trying to talk myself into being more overweight Devontae Adams than some of these other guys who I think are maybe artificially pushed up because of wide receiver thirst and maybe not as deserving of their ADPs as Devontae Adams, who's just crushed for years and years in all kinds of different environments.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Adams, I think the Jimmy G stuff has been overrated and overhyped in terms of people thinking he's not good. Like, the one thing Jimmy G has done has been a functional vessel for an offense. And I think that's something that honestly they were lacking at times last year with Carr, despite the fact that Adams kept getting there, that Jacobs kept getting there. So I'm very much in on Adams, and he's one of my higher exposed players. And certainly the week 17 stuff with Indianapolis, that being a game that's safe from weather, not a bad thing either. I also need to gift myself here, Pete. I did take Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry in a row. So the pigs are back.
I was going to say, old Spags takes Christian Watson and DK Metcalf there, like every single time.
Yeah, I still like the Watson thing. It's just like he is falling in some rooms with Jefferson, so I don't want to take it every single time that I have Jefferson. But Watson can go, like, if his ADP falls a few more spots, he might more reliably go on that, the 4-5 turn. So that's something that's been top of mind for me, even though I do have a good amount of Jefferson and Watson. If it gets, less unique, then I'm fucked with all those previous drafts.
Yeah. I mean, the build you did there from the one, like, that was like kind of my preferred build from the 1 and the 2. Interesting to see Barkley fall a good bit there too. He would have been, I haven't been getting a ton of Barkley, but I would have been happy to take him at a 2-3 turn price there as well. But yeah, man, Pollard's such a fun fucking click there to pair. Like, Justin Jefferson and Pollard is really nice.
MTM saying another reason people might be down on the Raiders, both Adams and Jacobs have expressed concern about the offense, which doesn't happen too often. They also are kind of both negotiating for different things. I mean, Adams, I think, is trying to keep his position of, hey, you have to keep me happy. Jacobs obviously hasn't signed his tender yet, so he might not even be on the team for week 1. So I wouldn't read too much on that, though it is certainly weird signaling there. And speaking of weird signaling, David's team here with Eckler, Mahomes, and Ramondre is a very unique start in our rooms.
Yeah, Eckler. I was secretly hoping, I was like, could Ramondre fall to me here at pick 34? We do see Brees go 31, so I didn't have to make that decision again. My second draft today, taking Keenan Allen. Again, like a guy that normally is going like in the mid-3rd in some of my rooms. So happy to get him here from the back half of the board. Certainly could have considered Josh Jacobs there as well.
Is Keenan Allen a guy that you wish you'd gotten more of early when he was going in like the 50s?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you always want closing line value. I mean, I am, even before this draft in the one today, because I hadn't updated my exposure, I'm nearly double the field on him. When I draft with Sean is extremely high on Keenan Allen. He has him kind of as like a 2-3 turn pick based on his personal ranks. So he's a guy that I've been just trying to like get my bags packed in spots that aren't super heavy wide receiver rooms, because then I miss out on him. So we'll see how this plays out here. But I do like the I could have done the double anchor RB with Bijan, but I honestly don't love, like someone just pointed out, the Adams and Jacobs stuff. I have done teams with both Adams and Jacobs, but it's not my preferred pairing together. Like, I don't want to be going out of my way to do that unless it's at really cheap prices.
Christian Watson goes to Scott Mack here, so I will not get him naturally falling to me, unfortunately. But what are you going to do here on the clock?
Yeah, didn't love that turn there. I was hoping Watson or Judy came back to me. let's see here. Probably going to let's take Drake London, another guy I've been trying to start to pencil in a little bit more after being really light on him to start. I mean, this is a true wasteland area here for me for picks. I could have made the detour for Lamar, but I have such PTSD from when Pat and I took a fourth round Lamar after also taking a running back and just watching the wide receivers fly off the shelves. So I kind of want to stay paced up here with an anchor RB build and wait until the 6-7 turn, because sometimes Herbert has been falling there as well. And I would feel pretty gross if I took Lamar and then Herbert also fell back to me and I got buried at wide receiver. That would just feel like a bad parlay run out there. So that was kind of what I was considering. But man, like all these wide receivers, man, like I took London there, but from London to Traylon Burks, it's all the fucking same to me.
Yeah, I would agree. And we've talked about London and Burks kind of being similar bets anyway. London was a little bit better last year, and I guess you could maybe hope that offense will be a little bit more improved than Tennessee's will, but I think the discount on Burks is pretty appealing to me. The Lamar thing, too, is frustrating because I took Lamar 29 last draft, then he goes 40 here, and that's the ADP band you're seeing right live here where the icon gets him at 40, and got to feel pretty good to get Lamar at 40. People think you should have taken him.
Yeah, the thing is, it's a structural thing, and I literally just explained it. The other thing too, what can happen, and this is what happened to Pat and I, if you take Lamar here, there are times where at pick 82 here in wide receiver heavy rooms, Zay and Bateman do not make it back. And so now all of a sudden you are pushed to these really uncomfortable stacking situations. So it was a structural thing, and it was reading the room and giving myself an out for Justin Herbert with the Keenan selection. So I feel very good about my decision passing on Lamar there.
Also, we are firmly in an avalanche here. Deontay Johnson goes at 46. So I think I am going to reach for Ayuk here. I do not want another share of ATN at this point. And man, I am in danger of getting completely boxed out at receiver here, but I don't want to reach for those guys. I'll take Hockenson for the elite tight end, but this room has taken some weird turns, and now I kind of wish I just reached for Watson.
There you go. I Spags, it always comes back. You how many times have you taken Watson when you've had number one picks? Because anecdotally, I feel like I've seen you do it a couple times with Justin Jefferson teams.
I've done it. It's probably a 50-50 thing. I think it didn't occur to me right away in the beginning because I was still waiting to see where Watson's ADP would land. But now that I feel pretty confident on Underdog, I don't see him leaving the 40s necessarily, I guess, barring an injury in training camp or training camp reports going really poorly for him, which I just don't think will happen. But it's one of those things where I kind of wish I did it more. I just don't want to be in a box right away with everybody who got lucky. Doesn't happen that often, but there's enough people who sent me screenshots, Pete, of like taking Watson at 47 here with Jefferson, and it worries me a little bit to lose one of those round picks.
Yeah, that's the concern, I think, with some of that stuff. I had a moment of gal brain when I was on the clock there with my second pick, or before I took Drake London, where I was like, I'd mentioned that I'd been wanting to kind of like boost up my Christian Kirk since I have such a big fade. And I was thinking through that a lot of teams with Keenan probably won't have Kirk just because Keenan's always drafted on this like 3-4 turn and Kirk's always at the 4-5. Ooh, man, interesting decision by David there. He does go with the double elite QB, which I do not like, but I do get sniped on Herbert, which is fine. Let's see here. I want to keep grabbing wide receivers here and see which one of these guys, Jones, Dobbins, Madison, Sanders. We're going to keep boosting our JSN exposure here and take him. This is a tough room right now.
Yeah, also Alex pointing out the reason too. I got Watson at 49 with Jefferson last night. I know our guy Paul, I was inverted, has mentioned same things. I think the guys that are doing a lot of drafts are getting that happening sometimes. I've not naturally had Watson fall once, but I do know it exists, so I'm trying to be mindful of that. But yeah, Spags seems in fuego. All right, I'll take that from Woodbond.
Let me check in on your team, see if I agree with this character. This is the gift of when you get fucking Justin Jefferson to Tony Pollard. It's hard to mess it up. Your team's just always going to look so nice.
Yeah, Pollard and Henry, I don't mind as an anchor duo. Obviously, gonna have to manage the running back capital pretty well for myself, but yeah, I don't take a lot of Pollard and Henry in a row, and I don't think that lines up very often. So in terms of drafting against type a little bit again, I think getting Pollard and Henry feels pretty unique for my portfolio.
Yeah. I have lots of pairings of like Ramondre Pollard, Ramondre Henry, Pollard Henry, Jacobs Pollard, all those different combos of guys who've been going in that range.
Are you going to get more zero RB? I guess make your pick here, but are you thinking about getting more zero RB after your portfolio revealed that you are firmly not a zero RB bro anymore?
Yeah, that's definitely something I am going out of my way to do more here. I'm debating here of how avalanchy this room is. I think I'm just going to have better. I like J.K. Dobbins. I think I'm just going to have better spots to get more value on him. So I'm going to keep just taking wide receivers I love and take Treylon Burks.
Also, apparently for Tyler, it is in fact still draft 69 here. Pollard, Henry, Justin Jefferson is like a 58-year-old getting new boobs. Hard not to like the result, even if the premise makes you a bit uneasy. Pete, how do you feel about that as a take?
Well, you didn't see my stream yesterday, but I had to create a new rule because Tyler's comments, while very funny, have really started to tiptoe up to the line. And so what I've decided is I've made Tyler's comments video only. So I pull them up on the screen, but I do not read them for the audio listeners. So I'm video paywalling Tyler's comments, as you might learn, might be a good idea for you here on Splash Play as well.
I mean, Tyler's got the Splash Play helmet on his little name there, so he gets his comment pulled up, and I'll read it aloud here, no shame. And Pete, also, I don't know if you saw, I had to institute a new rule. Of course, if you are a Splash Play member here, you click that join button down below. You can send me your teams if you want me to review them. I'll give you my honest feedback, players I like, players I don't like, things you might have done that I would do differently. Mathology right away, Pete, abused that to the gills, where I had 11 teams of his to review, I think 11 to 15, somewhere in that range. So it's now a 10 team per month cap. So I've had to learn from the process.
I told you that though. The second you announced it, I immediately poked holes in your idea, and it was your goodwill was immediately taken advantage of. So I'm glad that you came around on knowing an open-ended amount of team reviews, especially in this era where everyone is drafting hundreds of teams. That was such a bad idea.
Yeah, I had to learn about how to manage my time a little better, but I will review up to 10 teams a month. So if you want to take advantage of that, please do. Addison goes, so I cannot complete a Minnesota full fancy boys stack. I am going to reach for guys that I like. Pickens, of course, is one of those guys because I'm getting bled out at receiver. And Sanders, 10 picks after ADP. Is that enough to risk? No. Quentin Johnston, sorry, Pete, but I guess you didn't get Herbert anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No, Quentin Johnson he's interesting in that what do I have of him? Yeah, I'm double the field. I'm at 16%. I've been like wanting to get more of him, and I have just been getting sniped on him left and right. And I don't even use the word snipe. Sometimes when I do have Chargers stuff, but just like he's a guy I'm always hoping falls, and that's not happening. And my thesis has been that Quentin Johnson is going to move up and get closer to like the Jordan Addison range. And I think we're already starting to see that happen a little bit. So I'm going to continue to try to pack my Johnston bags as much as possible.
Yeah, and even though they play different positions on the field, I do think Johnson is kind of a lever against Keenan Allen coming up so much. Like he's a younger guy. He's a guy that can theoretically break some longer plays that might be, less chunk plays, less PPR kind of points coming in for Keenan Allen. So I think Johnson makes sense on a couple levels, but, I'm happy to take him whenever I'm very low on receiver because I think he's one of those few guys at this range that actually has the upside to be like a wide receiver one potentially. Yeah.
Dameon Pierce goes there. He's a guy who did I get him selected on one of my drafts yesterday? Yeah, I'm at 2.7%. I got him in a 0 RB build. Been trying to get a little bit more of him at these prices. Yeah, so right now through 6 rounds, I have Anchor Bijan, 5 wide receivers, Devonta Adams, Keenan Allen, Drake London, JSN, Treylon Burks. And you have a double anchor RB and the tight end, but you've gotten to 1, 2, 3. What do you got? 4 wide receivers. So yeah, you might be catching up at wide receiver a little bit more. Stoked that DeAndre Swift fell here. I'm currently even with the field on Swift, but he's a guy I still like a ton, and I'm going to grab him to pair with Bijan.
I'm actually getting my bags packed on Swift more than I would have thought because he falls in almost every room I'm in. I'm actually at 10% Swift, and that was not a plan of mine. But I guess I have so much Rashad Penny, it makes sense. But I feel like rooms like Swift, less than I would have thought, given the historical enthusiasm for him and the fact that he's on Philly. I kind of thought he was going to come up, and I'm surprised that he's available in the 80s a lot of times.
Yeah, man, I love both Swift and Penny so much. Those are like, when I am looking for a running back and they're just within the range of picks, it's just the problem is normally at, I just took him at 82. And that's a lot of times you see the only 2 wide receivers left on the board that I like are the Ravens ones, right? Like Bateman and Flowers. And so you're normally like, oh, let me grab the wide receivers before they fly off the shelves. And then you miss out on some Swift. But this one I felt comfortable doing. This is an interesting spot here. I do take Zay Flowers a lot, but in this build, I'm going to take the discount on Darren Waller here and grab Waller. I needed also right now, I didn't have a lot of late quarterback stacking options because I got sniped on Herbert. I have Raiders. I have Traylon Burks, and I have DeAndre Swift. So I only have some like thinner stuff late. I got Ritter. I got Geno available, but Waller gives me an out to another backdoor stack at quarterback. So I kind of like the optionality there. And Waller 7 picks past ADP feels nice.
What's your exposure on Waller right now?
Not enough. I am at 4% before this pick.
Yeah, I'm low on Waller too. And I was so heavy on him last year because I did like that Niners-Raiders game on paper being a Week 17 one. Obviously, that ended up being okay on the Kittle side, not so great on the other side for the Raiders. But I think with Waller, it's tough because Waller you basically have to take, and then you're kind of locked into taking Giants. Whereas like the appeal to me of taking Daniel Jones that you could build that stack out late.
Yeah. And that's one I'd been wanting to mess around with more. And the thing I was saying about the Giants, right, is like the Giants are the perfect team if you want to build. Like Daniel Jones and Darren Waller both have shown historically that they can deliver like high-end onesie production. And the fact that you can get those at pretty affordable costs, it does allow you to take more running back detours. Where if you do Jones and Waller, and then you have these essentially free Giants wide receivers, it is just a ton of optionality for builds. I mean, there's 4 Giants wide receivers in the last like 3 rounds that you can build out with those stacks.
So I hate this pocket. It was reach for Allen Lazard, Sky Moore, or Odell, or take more running backs. So I do take 2 more running backs, and I guess I'm just done at running back now.
Well, so Spags, I will say what you did here is what I really love to do when I have those double anchors where you're taking some big swings where it's like, how are these other running backs going to get in your starting lineup? Because you're going to be banking on Pollard and Henry for most of the year. And it's like Javonte Williams and Zach Charbonnet, they do have that massive upside. Zach Charbonnet is more contingent if Walker gets hurt, and Javonte, if he just comes back healthy, or surges down the stretch. Like I like getting those kind of profiles with the anchor running backs.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think, I still like some receivers late that I can kind of talk myself into as having upside. So that's why there. And I got a little bit of correlation too. Obviously, Javonte correlates with Quentin Johnston. Charbonnet correlates with Pickens. So I'm doing the things I have to do. It just feels bad. But like reaching for Lazard would have felt much worse. So I think that was the right choice.
Yeah, reaching for Lazard would have felt bad.
Yeah, AR goes at 102 here. So we're at a safe AR range, which is fine. I don't want to see AR going in the 120s. That's always my suboptimal. Out here, Stepfather's thanking me for not taking Tua for no reason and ruining his day. I'm glad to give you the discount here. Tua's weird, man. Tua goes so high sometimes, and sometimes he'll fall to 110 and align perfectly for the Dolphin stacker. And got to feel good for Stepfathers.
So one thing I'm not going to do here is there's not a single running back that I have to have on the board. By ADP, I could let Daniel Jones go and see if he comes back. But the guy at the turn, Scott Mack, has not taken a quarterback yet. And Kirk Jones is the only cover at quarterback. So I'm just not going to mess around. I'm going to select Daniel Jones here and get him stacked up with Darren Waller and also give me outs to those backdoor stacks.
Shout out to Ivan, our guy here, joining the Splash Play channel. I appreciate that a bunch here. $4.99 a month here, and you can get your team reviews, and of course, you can support the channel here in these trying times of payroll delays and such. But we appreciate it. And I like what you're doing with Daniel Jones. I mean, I wish you had a Ram who had value. Like I feel like the Rams Giants stack, Pete, is one that I do not have much for Week 17, and I feel like it just doesn't align perfectly with the ADP pockets.
The Rams.
Yeah, the Rams with the Giants.
Yeah, I don't know, because I do think like there's so many Rams pass catchers late, right? Like the Van
Sure.
Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, Tutu's always free in the last round. Yeah, I don't know. I do think you have plenty of options for that, depending on how things break. Man, I'm gonna have a tough decision here at this pick. I'm basically debating, do I take Geno Smith? And, I probably could be done at quarterback with Jones and Geno. I would have Geno stacked up with JSN. Or do I take a running back value here? P. Ryan slid 7 picks. I do have a little correlation with Keenan Allen there. I could take Rashad Penny and continue my handcucking theme. I do not have a lot of Geno with JSN. I think that's how I want to play this. I think I will like a couple running backs that are available to me at 130 and 135 and pass on P. Ryan there. That was a tough decision for me. I feel like I could have gone either way.
So this would be a 2 QB build for you, right? No way you're going to attack on a third?
I don't want to say never, because if I hate the board and Desmond Ridder staring there at the end to stack up with Drake London, I might do it. But yes, most scenarios, this is a 2 QB build.
I hope Go AZ Cards is being ironic about buying a Pittman jersey, or excuse me, I guess a Pittman one. Yeah, I'm not buying a Pittman one. I have the AR one. I can't have a house full of Colts jerseys, Pete. I feel like I've spent enough money on Michael Pittman, both with my play style. So I don't need another Colts. Can you imagine if I had just all the Colts jerseys here for no reason?
I wouldn't be shocked, Spags. I honestly wouldn't have been shocked.
No, I am not. I could spend my money on Pittman through my drafts. I do not need to honor him, though. But he is a USC guy, so I guess you can make that case.
Is that part of your Pittman love? Is the USC connection?
No, because he's weirdly like he and Amon-Ra are kind of blind spots for me, with like them porting over to be guys that I'm following like so adamantly, because they weren't the sexiest players at USC. Like they were good, but they weren't like fun like a Reggie Bush was when I was in college. When even Mike Williams was kind of fun when he was terrible in the NFL, but he was fun in college. So they never really struck that chord for me that I felt like I needed to get in, but maybe I should. Maybe that should be my brand.
Yeah. Who else do you need to start taking? Juju?
Juju? Well, I do take Juju. Actually, he's the one that I do take. Where
really? I didn't know. I didn't strike you. But maybe it goes back to the USC when you are willing to break type for wide receivers. Because even Michael Pittman, Spags, is like more Deontay Johnson-y than he is George Pickens-y. You break type for USC wide receivers. I think that's what we're discovering here.
Yeah, I suppose maybe I do. I'm going to take Kirk Cousins here. Nice discount for him because I guess the Addison guy didn't want him. So I will take that. And then 4-4. So I need a receiver here. God, this is not the pocket I want one, but I will take a man who was part of the $2 million winning team last year, Jacoby Myers. So he's going to do it again this year.
I know. Isn't that funny how that's now a crutch for us when we take players where I'm like, yeah, Gesicki was on that $2 million team. Surely it has to help me.
I think it just ties more so to that. Like, I don't know how you feel about this, but I hate when people are like, oh, you're donating, you're paying the rate. Cause it's like, we just don't I mean, I know that's a kitchen thing, but we just don't know quite literally where could be any of these guys and you escape certain pods. Like, I don't like that conversation being a thing.
I love it. Now everyone's going full kitchen these days. You just don't know.
It's all about the overall configuration, though. Like, I think it's about giving yourself the structure and the ADP values to give yourself a chance to be there at the end. And from there, it's like, like, would you have picked last year? Oh, KJ Osborne, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram are going to push people over the top. Like, I don't think anybody would. But if you were drafting structurally and, taking ADP values, you would have gotten there.
Right. For sure. All right, Spags, let's recap our teams here through 10 rounds. I have Daniel Jones and Geno Smith at quarterback, Bijan and DeAndre Swift at running back, 5 wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Drake London, JSN, and Treylon Burks. My tight end, Darren Waller. What are you working with?
I have Kirk Cousins, a nice little ADP value here. Running back, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams, and Zach Charbonnet. So I will not be taking one for a little bit. At wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, George Pickens, Quentin Johnson, and Jacoby Myers. Quite the fall off to number 5 there. And a tight end, TJ Hawkinson. So again, unique teams. The room is forcing us into some perhaps more unique builds than we would like. Is you take Jaylen Warren, which is not unique for us.
I snap picked Jaylen Warren. When you set up a Seattle stack, like there's really only one viable Steelers bring back once Freiermuth comes off the board, right? Like, and it's Jaylen Warren. I mean, unless you want to try to sell me on Allen Robinson, or I know who is it? Calvin Austin is the other guy some people like. But yeah, so the fact that I needed a running back and he was close to ADP and correlated, that was an easy run to the podium pick.
I love Warren. I know there's been some and I don't even think it's anybody who really knows anything that much. And I might be missing somebody who's made some great cases for Najee Harris. I don't see the argument against Warren just being like a guy who can't earn more touches. He was being fed the ball the same rate as Najee was, and that's on a lot of third downs he was playing last year. Like Warren's one of those guys, Pete, that I feel like the casual markets will kind of drive down a little bit. And I don't think they should, because he should just be in a straight timeshare with Najee this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could argue it's a little rich, but again, say maybe compared to Jerome Ford, who has no chance of like beating out Nick Chubb for early down carries, it's definitely within the range of outcomes that Jaylen Warren could do that for Najee. All right, I'm on the clock here. I think I'll just get back on my bullshit with Kendre Miller. I took Jamal Williams last draft and just didn't feel great. I need to get back to hammering my guys. And so Kendre and Jaylen Warren are the picks at the 11-12 turn.
My two highest exposed running backs right now across everything.
I'm a Spags running back piggy, not only a piggy, but a Spags piggy. Ugh.
I think these are the best zero RB running backs to go with. So I support them. But yeah, in this range, Pete, I think you and I are not going to be that different, because you're heavy Kendre, you're heavy Jaylen Warren. You're heavy A-Chain too, right?
Yeah, although not quite as much. I am at I'm only 10% A-Chain, so not as much.
Oh, I am at 25% A-Chain overall, but that's everything.
I got in the Bulldog draft I got A-Chain at like 120. He definitely will fall in some spots there too. He's an interesting one. He does feel, I've said this about all those three backfields, the Saints, the Dolphins, and the Bears. Like, we're going to see some pretty big movement from at least one back in each of those offenses. Like the second the Kamara suspension is announced, and obviously it should have been baked into it, like you are going to see Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller rise. In the same way, like Madison shot up after Dalvin Cook was released, even though everyone knew Dalvin Cook was a goner, the like market still hadn't fully baked it in. And same with like these Dolphins backfields. I do think, like, based on training camp reports, Mostert is looking like the guy, or A-Chain just isn't quite ready yet, or whatever version of it is, or A-Chain's ripping off 70-yard runs. Like, you're going to see these guys move multiple rounds based on reports, because the whole thing is the market is shrugging their shoulders, being like, hey, we like the Bears running game. We like the Dolphins running game. We like the Saints running game. We just don't know which one to take. And the second anyone gets permission, a little bit of clarity, the market is going to react very quickly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I've dug my heels in on the rookie side of that, and not as much as Nick. 55% Kendre. It's a lot of Kendre. I get the logic, but I don't know. I don't know if you have a hard cap for yourself, Pete, but I definitely have been like 33% max and ideally 25% caps for everything.
Well, I talked about this too on my portfolio review. Like, one, in general, I kind of like to balance out exposures a little bit, but two, like a third of my drafts have been drafted with someone else. So like, I'm always, maybe those are spots where it's like Pete clicks Kendre again, those 26 or 27 drafts I've done with other people. So I think I'm just natural. It's going to be super, super hard for me to get over 25% on any one player, just the way I'm doing things this year.
Yeah, no, I think that's a reasonable way to look at it. And I would say for me last year, again, having a full portfolio, maxing out a bunch of different tournaments and getting in, 1,000 entries or so last season, I felt like the biggest mistake I made was going so heavy on some guys. And like, I think going heavy on the zero RB guys, you can make the case as being the safest pick. But I would say like the big lesson I think a lot of people learn when maxing stuff out is like just being mindful of your exposures is probably the best you can do overall.
Yeah. I was considering, so if Kendre had gone in the last round, I was going to take Tank Bigsby, and then Tank falls all the way to pick 154. Tank's another guy I have a ton of. I'm double the field on Tank right now. He feels good as a 5th running back. It also, like, one of the nice things about the Giants stuff, and we were just talking about it, right? Because there's so many Giants wide receivers available late, I feel like I really have permission to load up on running backs here. I didn't have to do the Rashee Rice, Jonathan Mingo picks that I'm sometimes forced into, because it's just like I have all of these guys in my back pocket to round out my wide receiver room. So I am just kind of prioritizing other positions right now, knowing I can come back to those guys.
Yeah, and honestly, you are literally playing my entire running back portfolio right now. Warren, Kendra, Bigsby, Roshan is in there too. I have 24% Roshan. And then we'll see. Maybe some Singletary, some Chase Brown for you if you want to complete the whole band for yourself.
Yeah, I might end up doing just one more running back here and then being done. I'm also debating another tight end. I might end up with a 3 tight end build, perhaps. Maybe I do the Taysom Hill thing here. I have a bet on the Saints with my Kendre stuff. I've been boosting up my Taysom. Feels like a fun pick here. Let's do Taysom.
What's your Taysom exposure?
Just over the field, 10%.
Okay. I've been low on Taysom and taken him sometimes because he's been falling in some rooms I'm in, but I just don't like the pick conception. Like, I don't know. It just never feels comfortable to me. I think that's the issue I have with Taysom.
Yeah. The other thing, Spags, is like, I've struggled with him. I was light on him early on in draft season. I've come around a bit. And the other thing is there continues to be some positive buzz about Taysom Hill. So here was a quote from Derek Carr. This is from New Orleans.football. That's the Nick Underhill site. So he was writing about, this was from Derek Carr. You get the ball to him and he's faster than my truck. He runs through and he runs over a couple of guys and he gets first down. You watch it on tape and it happens over and over again. Hill also mentioned that he might add a new meeting room to his class schedule at times this year, working with running backs coach Joel Thomas. So I'm starting a lot of Taysom Hill hype starting to get to me here, Spags.
The thing that just stands out the most to me is like, this is now not the Winston situation where you want to give Taysom Hill snaps and like you're not eating away at a contract. They're paying Carr so much money that I think that still is a thing that rings true to me. And I know you sometimes I think you're in and out on the contract stuff, but if you're paying a QB, 35 mil a year, I don't think you want to give away that many snaps unless it's just like that QB can't do it. And if they can't do it, then that whole contract is a bust.
Well, to me, that was my initial pushback to Spags, but I'm coming into this with open eyes. Like, I'm not selecting Taysom Hill hoping for QB snaps. I am hoping for the fact that they just use him as the Swiss Army knife as part of their, just weaponry around the goal line. And he also has shown the ability to rip off big plays. And I do think he still has kind of that asymmetric upside to have a 20-point game at the tight end position. So I've definitely come around on Taysom Hill.
Oh, here you go. And Carr and Taysom both really religious, and Taysom college teammates with Jamal Williams. So if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what would.
I am fully sold now.
Shout out Mr. joining here. Appreciate everybody who joins the channel. Of course, subscribe down below as well for free if you want to just get all the content we have here on the Splash Play channel. 2-4-6-1 build for me. So I have dug out of some of my early running back issues. Laporta is not a bad discount here. I am going to deviate and take Laporta just because I think he's a good tight end play at this point. And I guess Tim Patrick is at 176 now.
Yeah.
Huh? I guess we'll take Tim Patrick.
When did that happen? Because I noticed that because I was like, I have a decent amount of Tim Patrick, but I'm genuinely confused, Spags, because he was a late round pick with like all those guys, right? Like Terrace Marshall, like all those guys who were just stuck like 18th and 19th round or whatever. What moved him up?
I don't know. I was it in the week I was gone? Because that's how I feel like, because he was going 200 from what I last recall, and now it's that high.
I don't know what happened. I'm so confused.
It's weird too, because you're doing enough drafts like clockwork where you would think you would notice, but no, I guess. Are there people like reaching for Tim Patrick? Are they taking him in the 100s sometimes?
Okay. Nick says a report came out of another Broncos player saying that Tim Patrick is the best guy in the room. Okay. So this is like the Paris Campbell thing too, right? Where it's just like, we are so starved for info that a teammate hyping another teammate, which is a genre of like Roto World posts that you will see a ton this offseason. Teammate hyping up teammate. Probably the least actionable of all.
Yeah, like if anything, what should have propped Tim Patrick up earlier was when there were the reports about how, oh, this is why the Broncos fell apart last year. Is they didn't have Tim Patrick out there doing what he did. He's the best receiver, all that stuff. I would buy into that being a report that I know some of the Broncos beat guys had, like over just, yeah, Tim Patrick, boy, he's great. Like, I don't, it doesn't do enough for me at this point of things.
No, it does not.
Oh, here goes. Sean Payton likes Tim Patrick. Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
Let's see here. I was going to take Isaiah Hodgins. I don't have a ton of him. I think I only have 4 more picks. I think we just need to start taking Giants wide receivers, throw ADP out the window a little bit. Come on down, Jalen Hyatt.
I don't think Hyatt should still be higher than Slayton.
Oh, I do.
Really?
Yeah. I like Slayton, but I think these prices for Jalen Hyatt are perfectly fine. And we know what Darius Slayton is. I think he's, Darius Slayton is like cheaper DPJ in the Giants offense. But if you're going to have like an asymmetric bet where a guy could just massively outperform their draft slot, it's definitely going to be a guy like Hyatt.
I guess I just saw enough signs of life from Slayton as the only guy who could really play outside. Like, I guess Hodgins can play outside, but it's not like a perfectly natural fit. And Slayton was good last year at various points, certainly fantasy wise. I'm sure you'd want to see a little bit more. I guess I would just take Slayton over Campbell and Hyatt personally. And I don't like that Campbell's now the number 1 in the pecking order besides Waller.
I like Hyatt and Wandale the most. And that's what I'm going to do here. But I'm open to all of them. Like, I want to get a little bit more Hodgins, but because he goes first, I normally don't end up with him. And then Slayton remains free. I guess you could say that maybe Slayton and Jalen Hyatt have a little bit more competition for, like, they're both going to be utilized similarly, right? Like on the outside as a deep threat wide receiver. So maybe I don't love those two paired together quite as much. But I think you should be taking stabs on all of those Giants wide receivers when you have, Rams or Daniel Jones builds.
Even Paris Campbell?
No.
Okay.
Come on, let's be reasonable.
Well, because I know you did push back at him. So yeah, I think Paris Campbell's steam is going to be a little too much, but mostly because there weren't the news items out there for anything else of note really going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. So shout out to the chat, by the way. Shout out to all you guys hanging out here. Of course, subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. If you do leave a comment down below, you'll be entered a share of Pete's $1,500 is given away. Of course, $500 to 3 different people. So do that down below. And of course, make sure to go check out the stream on Pete's channel as well and leave a comment on there. And do you have any idea what your rate? You should hit your 15,000 by end of month, beginning of next month.
It's hard to tell because things are picking up a little bit. I think if we stay on the exact pace we're on now, I think it would be around mid-August. But if things pick up, I think it could be maybe a week or 2 sooner.
Yeah, so exciting times here on the YouTube. And of course, Splash Play marching to 3,000 subs, so help us out with that as well. All right, 2472. I've gotten my Broncos. I've got Minnesota. Don't have much in the way of Green Bay yet, but there's nothing here. I actually am going to reach for Luke Musgrave just because I do want to get him as my bring back for Minnesota. And then San Francisco, Washington. This is an ugly pocket again. I'm going to take a 5th running back and take Chase Brown here. No particular reason. I just feel like 4 running backs to me, Pete, feels a little too thin, even though obviously I did spend a little more early capital than I usually do.
Yeah, didn't you say Chase Brown's got to be getting up there for you?
He is one of my top guys. He is at 20% overall in BBM for me and a little bit higher across everything.
I would say by your standards, this is definitely maybe a weaker wide receiver room for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think getting bled out early and then just, nobody after 100 really jumps out as being meaningfully interesting to me. But I feel okay that I'll get an okay round 18 guy. But yes, I do love really hammering wide receiver early and then kind of letting the chips fall where they may. And that is not the case in this room.
Yeah, this draft ended up being kind of like how I want to be attacking weekly winners, in that I think the uniqueness element in weekly winners is going to be really important. So like getting guys that aren't that you're reaching for in the later rounds, where I basically just like threw out ADP in 15, 16, 17, because I basically have mapped my draft out ever since my Daniel Jones selection. And I was going to be open to quadruple stacking Daniel Jones with Hyatt, Wandell, and Slayton. But Slayton did end up going, so I don't get him. But I did want to get one Rams wide receiver coming back. I do like Tutu Atwell. I know there's the Puka hype. He went in the 14th round of our last draft, but I still prefer Tutu. And I do think, like, if you're going to get the big play, the better and best ball, the guy who speeds up the game, I do think that's going to be Tutu in this offense. So I'll get him as my Rams bring back to this big giant stack.
I like Puka more than Tutu. I could see your logic. It just feels like Puka is going to get, like, there's going to be three receivers out there. It's probably going to be Van Jefferson, Kupp, and Puka, I would think. And Tutu probably gets downgraded to, I guess, how he perceived KJ Hamler last year, which I'm sure is like music to your ears. But I think Tutu just becomes like a pure gadget downfield guy. If Puka's already getting first team reps, like it does, and they're hyping him up, it feels like he's going to be out there a lot.
I'm going to I do this sometimes on Best Ball Breakfast. I'm going to let the chat decide on my final round pick. I'm going to give you guys a couple of options here. The first would be double stacking Geno with Noah Fant as my third tight end. My guess is the chat isn't going to like this one. I always feel like I'm a little higher on Noah Fant, but this would be the double stack. Or would you like me to do Terrace Marshall as my ninth wide receiver correlated with Tank Bigsby? Let's see if anyone can get in time here. Terrace Marshall or Noah Fant. Do you have a vote, Spags?
I would go Fant, I think, because you already have a little bit of a Pittsburgh bet too. So I think getting another part to stack up with Geno would look pretty good, especially because you have Taysom and he's not a guaranteed point every week.
I'm putting Fant ahead right now. Fant, I got two Fants, three Fant. Okay, Fant, resounding Fant win there. I actually, for some reason, thought you guys wouldn't like Noah Fant here, but I do like getting that double stack with Geno. I feel like Waller, Hill, and Noah Fant is a fun room here. So I do finish out with the Daniel Jones triple stack, Tutu bring back, and the Geno double stack, Jaylen Warren bring back.
Yeah, I like Noah Fant too more than I think, it's like an 18th round pick or, third tight end for the most part kind of guy. It get a little worrisome, I guess, how they didn't want to use him last year, but that did go up down the stretch of last season. So I don't know. I'm in on Fant. I think for your build, especially where you have Waller, you have Taysom who can give you 20, can give you 0. I think you want one more tight end there to get to a 3 tight end build.
Yeah, I think, the thing I was thinking about with Fant, like in our guy Tyler mentioning, Fant has been declining in yards per route run and usage every year. He's definitely underwhelmed relative to like his prospect profile coming out of Iowa State and how much hype there was with him. Two things on him. Like, again, you're going in with open eyes with this. The thesis for Fant, right, is that there's 1 week in the playoffs where he has like a 1 or 2 touchdown game as this really unique piece in an offense that's good. And the second thing is he has pretty nice contingent upside, right? Like if one of Lockett or Metcalf or JSN, obviously on this team I have JSN, so I don't want that to happen. But if a guy like Metcalf were to get hurt, I think you'd see Noah Fant's role expand in a pretty big way. So a little contingent upside, a little playoff uniqueness. And again, similar to what I was just saying on that last draft where I kind of regretted taking Everett over Laporta, I do really want to lean into correlation with these late round picks.
And I am taking Justin Ross to cap off my team here for that micro correlation with Chase Brown. So I'll read my team first. I got a QB, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, running back, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams, Zach Charbonnet, and Chase Brown late. A receiver, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, George Pickens, Quentin Johnson, Jacoby Myers, KJ Osborne, Tim Patrick, and then Justin Ross, who's not appearing on the screen. And then Hawkinson, Laporta, and Musgrave at tight end. Weird team for me, again, because of the not going early at receiver, but I feel like I dug out enough to feel okay about this team.
Yeah, I think Kirk and Russ is definitely like on the fringe for me. If I would maybe go a third quarterback, did you look at Kenny Pickett at all?
I did not, because I only got the one part with Pickens, and I do feel like I want to get one of Warren or maybe Freiermuth with Pickens to go there. But I feel like Cousins and Russ is like enough at QB. I don't know. Like to me, like that's the probably the demarcation line where I wouldn't go to a 3 QB build.
I think it's really close. Like in the last draft, I was in the same spot. I think like Goff Love is kind of comparable. I guess you could say Cousins and Russ, just based on the draft capital, is slightly more. So yeah, it's fringe there. But because you also had the Zach Charbonnet week 17, I was wondering if that would push you towards building out a third little game stack there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely would have made some sense. All right, and your team here, if you want to give it a read.
Yeah, so Daniel Jones and Geno at quarterback, 5 running backs here: Bijan, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Warren, Kendre Miller, Tank Bigsby, 60% rookies there. Wide receiver, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Drake London, JSN, Traylon Burks, and then Jalen Hyatt, Wandale Robinson, Tutu Atwell. And then tight ends here, Darren Waller, Taysom Hill, and Noah Fant.
I like your top 5 receivers. I obviously thinned out a little bit after that, but yeah, I think that's a solid team here relative to a wide receiver avalanche room.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do more of these like backdoor. I do not have a lot of Jones, and I should go to the Fantasy Life Hub and just confirm how much Daniel Jones and Darren Waller I have. But I've been wanting to get more of that because it does feel like I love the upside that both Daniel Jones and Waller give you at the onesies, and then just how easy it is to complete a double or triple stack late. It does feel like a really nice build. And you could get burned by like training camp stuff because there is uncertainty there. But I'd argue the prices on Hodgins, Slayton, Robinson, and Hyatt are all so cheap that you can miss on one of them if you're kind of spraying and praying on 2 to 3 of them late. It's almost like the Dolphins backfield where the cost is so cheap that I think you can try to attack it in multiple directions.
And also, I think people summing up to put a capper on the Cousins Wilson debate. So you're heavy on JJ and Hawkinson. It is a big bet. I think that sums up why I feel a little more comfortable about Cousins being able to get into a lineup a little bit more so. But your mileage may vary. I think Pete's right that could be a 3 QB build, could be a 2 QB build. Just depends on how you're gonna break that all down. Pete, give the plugs here one more time. Of course, you are going to be doing a bunch of streams coming up here, and people should be leaving comments on all your BBM videos, of course, as well.
Yes. Obviously, any draft I do, Best Ball Mania draft, is eligible for the comment giveaway that includes these on the Splash Play channel. Over on my YouTube channel, I have a playlist. So anytime I do a draft, I'll go and throw these into the playlist. So it's very easy for you to go back through. People continue to go and start from the beginning. I will say this, a couple rules: do not post the same exact theme every time. Don't write comment, don't write first, don't whatever. Like, you have to show a modicum of effort. Otherwise, I will delete your comment. So as long as you can just show a smidge of effort, you will be entered into the giveaway, and all of these draft streams are eligible. And like Spags said, if we could really accelerate this sub stuff, we could be doing the giveaway as soon as early August.
Yeah. Have you gravitated towards any commenters? Because there's a couple that I've seen coming in late where I'm like, there's a guy Port who I've enjoyed his comments. He's doing Port facts. Very funny. I've enjoyed those.
Yeah, I do appreciate all the themes. Our guy Mathology has been doing horoscopes for the teams. I always enjoy those. You mentioned the guy, and I'm blanking on it, had went and broke down all of my draft slots. So, you don't have to have an overarching thematic element to your comments, but I certainly appreciate it.
It's still a random draw at the end of the day, but it is nice to see someone. So we appreciate the people having fun in the comments on here. Follow Pete at Peter Overzet. Follow me at Chris Spags. Of course, follow this show at Splash Play Pod to know whenever we go live. And again, guys, please make sure subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. We appreciate that very much on here, and use the promo code SPLASH Underdog too if you are trying to deposit for the first time on there. Any final words here, Pete, as we hit the outro?
No, I did just look. This is my 3rd Daniel Jones, Darren Waller team. So I've been doing it a little bit here. And I should also recommend the Fantasy Life Best Ball Hub. You can go and upload your CSV. You can search by tournaments, and you can also easily pull up and review your specific teams. So free best ball tool for you sickos. Highly recommend uploading your CSV and kind of poking around and looking at your various combos.
Very easy, very cleanly laid out as well. Definitely a nice free tool out there if you don't want to splurge on some of the other ones that are floating around. Of course, Pete will be back here on his channel in a little bit. I'll be back on Friday for Spag Stacks, spinning the wheel, drafting teams at random. So come join me then. Appreciate all you hanging out with us. We'll see you guys again soon. Bye.